everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I want to talk about Rick Grimes, because it's been a while since we talked about Rick Grimes, and so I wanted to talk about his eventual return, and I wanted to talk about how a lot of fans seem to want his return, because obviously ever since The Ones Who Live aired, I think that there's just been more and more people looking back at it and being like, yeah, that finale really wasn't the greatest episode, and I would say generally, I think a lot of people want more of a classic Walking Dead story, and that's sort of where they want the next story, I guess, to go in here. And, Andrew Lincoln talked about that obviously like a couple of months ago. I think it was like 2 months ago or something, 2-3 months ago, where he did say that, for Rick's next story, he would want it to go into the simplistic survival horror direction, bring it back down to the basics and whatnot. And obviously everybody got really excited about that. And so I wanted to talk about where Rick's story should go next. And, I asked you guys here on X. So first of all, thank you guys for all of your responses here. And then, I'll give some thoughts on all that. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, we're almost a month away until The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon premieres. Tomorrow exactly, it will be 1 month away. And so will there be a trailer tomorrow, like a final trailer? I guess it is possible. We'll have to wait and see. I could totally see one dropping tomorrow. There's likely going to be something because we're exactly 1 month away tomorrow. So I'm assuming that something's going to be coming out tomorrow. Usually there is a trailer, but again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Like, they could wait until early September, but I'm expecting within the next week for there to be something brand new, just because, we're getting very, very close to the premiere of the series, right? And even though it does seem like things are really picking up right now in terms of promotion and all that, and it seems like a lot of interest is starting to come back right now, I think it's only going to pick up as soon as we hit September, just because, some people are still sort of in summer mode right now, as summer's coming to an end, and it's like September, officially fall, people are back in school and back to work and whatnot. A lot of that's going to change here. So the trailer, if it does come out tomorrow, I will do a breakdown of that, obviously, so definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. So I posted on X that I wanted to do a video on Rick's eventual return, because obviously Rick is eventually going to return. It's just sort of a matter of when. Right now, Andrew Lincoln is filming a new series called Cold Water. He's been filming for like, a month or two or something like that. So I'm assuming that that's gonna, keep going for the next couple of months here. And any sort of, I guess it kind of makes sense, like any sort of season 2 of The Ones Who Live, or if it's going to be a new series, which I feel like it's going to be a new series, it makes way more sense. The way Andrew Lincoln seems to be doing projects right now, just based off of, the last couple of years anyways, is it's like very like limited series projects, in the sense of like he'll come and like do a series that has like a beginning and an end, right? So The Ones Who Live had a beginning and an end. Cold Water is 6 episodes. It's going to have a beginning and an end. He did Penguin Bloom, which was like this movie or whatever. So I think if he comes back as Rick Grimes, it's going to be, in a new series, and there's going to be a beginning and an end, obviously, to the series. And I think that's what to expect from any future Rick Grimes story. And I think it will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. I'm just not entirely sure when exactly. And I think that's what everybody is sort of expecting. Like, everybody knows that he will come back at some point. It's just, is it going to be next year? Probably not. The year after? I don't think so, but maybe the year after that, like if they announce something next year, right? But again, if they push it off a little bit more and Andrew Lincoln is still wanting to do other projects or whatever, maybe they wait until the year after that, right? Like, I feel like a lot of it too is based off of the timeline of the actors, because you got to look at the actors who played Judith and RJ. They're going to be getting a lot older over the next couple of years here, right? Like, I think that they should be adults at that point. And so, the story's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have Judith and RJ, grow up quite a bit in the story here, which means that a new series would have a big time jump, which would mean that, a lot of characters would have to sort of be around. Like, Morgan was on his way to Alexandria, so we're just going to have to assume that him and Rick have already reunited. Like, there's a lot of things like that, right? Dead City is also further in the timeline, so that does help with that. Like, maybe they just catch up with Dead City's timeline eventually, right? But yeah, I wanted to talk about this here because, it's definitely something that I've given my thoughts on quite a bit. And I wanted to see what everyone overall, was thinking about a lot of this, because before The Ones Who Live, I would say everybody wanted to have Rick and Michonne reunite. And that was really the focus, was like Rick and Michonne reunite, and Rick just to like reunite with his family and all that. Like, people wanted to see that. And so I was like, well, that did happen already. Now, where would you want Rick's story to go? And I know that the most popular option is going to be Rick and Daryl, that reunion. And we'll talk about that in a second here. But yeah, I asked, like, where would you want the story to focus on? Would you want it to be on zombie survival, another epic love story, or like a horror / slasher series sort of thing? Like, where should the story go next? And judging based off of the responses here to my post, it looks looks like everyone, for the most part, as of me recording this right now anyways, is saying horror. I see Ray Fanatic here is saying horror for sure, include Rick running into Morgan. Larry is saying horror survival story about the variant walkers and new threats like Primrose Team and Violet Team and evil scientists or something. I mean, yeah, that's always an option, definitely. I see some more options here for horror. And then, yeah, simple survival horror. Strip it back to the basics and remove the spectacle side of it. Make it a character drama with grounded stakes and not an endgame final battle story. I want to feel grounded in the world with the characters, especially Rick. Again. And then I see a response here with Rick and Daryl reuniting. And so generally I will say, based off of the comments, that whenever I do a video like this, and I'm assuming the comments, maybe I'm wrong, but you can let me know down below in the comment section, most people want it to be very horror focused and like focus more on like, you know, the basics again and make it very, very simple and whatnot. And I definitely agree with that. I do think that that is where they should go next, because that was the one thing about watching The Ones Who Live that I saw from a lot of fans that, again, at the time I kind of ignored because I figured that they were probably going to go in a different direction in the finale. But a lot of people I saw after like the first couple of episodes, I think it was like after episode 3 or it was like after episode 2, around there, I saw a lot of people tagging me and like saying to me, you know, on Discord or whatever, like, I have some concerns about this. It seems like they're doing this. The pacing is like this and they're focusing too much on this and that. Like, it doesn't feel like this. And I was like, well, you know, we'll just wait and see. And obviously by the finale, it was definitely, like, I would say The Ones Who Live was what they said it was going to be. It was an epic love story. Now, that's not going to be for everyone, but obviously, you know, there were a lot of people that were so happy about that. And I do think for Rick and Michonne's story, you know, go back to before The Ones Who Live. If you're just focused on like, where should Rick's story go next? And you have all of these different like series ideas or whatever, it makes sense that the first thing that you should focus on is reuniting Rick and Michonne, and then Rick, you know, with his family and like, you know, telling that side to it, the whole emotional side to it. And we did get that, right? And I think that obviously there's definitely some issues with how they did it. I think they could have did it a lot better, you know, at least in the very last episode. But I still think that that was a story that they needed to tell. But I think focusing more on survival horror next and having some characters come back, I think would make fans really, really excited, because I think that most fans do want that. I don't want to say most fans. I don't know if it's most fans. I really don't know. But I just see that response so much where it's like, you know, I want it to feel like a survival show again. You know, like if you're looking at The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, we're basically getting that with Daryl. Even with like Maggie and Negan, Carol's going to be on Daryl Dixon now. So obviously we're going to see a lot more of that from her in that show. And so it's like, you know, people want that from Rick and Michonne as well. They want to see them trying to survive out there. And I think that's why a lot of people liked episodes 1 and 2 a lot, was, you know, just a lot of that. And I think that is likely going to be where the story goes next, is they will focus a lot on Rick and Michonne, you know, surviving out there. Now, it is tricky because they do have the CRM, right? Like, if you have the CRM with you and you're able to have that support there from them, like, you know, trying to survive isn't going to be so hard. Like, you're going to be able to survive pretty easily, I would say. And I think that's what they really got to try to fix in some way. And I feel like that's kind of why they finished the CRM arc very fast anyways, was because of that. Because, you know, the next story, they want them to go more in that direction. I still think there is a way to do it. Like, maybe you have the CRM that helps you, but again, if it's going to be like a 6-episode series where, and like, what if they do a series on like Rick and Morgan or something, right? Like, I just feel like whatever it's going to be next, it's basically going to be something like, the premise is going to be Rick and Michonne and whoever else, I guess, will be with them. Maybe it's Morgan or other characters from Alexandria. But I think the premise is going to be they are going to help some people. And that's what they've been doing for the last couple of years. You know, like they have family time and they hang out in Alexandria or the Commonwealth or wherever they live now. Maybe it's a different place entirely. And then obviously they go out and they help deliver supplies and whatnot to the CRM. But on one of these trips that they make, something happens because there's this group that's there or this and that happens, and Rick and Michonne end up trapped and they lose all form of communication with anyone, you know, back home or to the CRM. And then just what sort of story you tell there, I think would be really incredible. And I think you can go in a really crazy direction there. Again, it would be very, very simple. It's not like a bigger story where you have the CRM or like these bigger, you know, stories happening. Like, it would just be very, very simple. Like, imagine Teddy from like Fear the Walking Dead. Imagine if he was like the villain of that series. You know, obviously they would have to change the story a lot and not make it a story about like this nuclear apocalypse or something like that. But if you had a villain like Teddy, right, like on the show, I think a lot of fans would be really, really excited about that. And again, because he's kind of crazy, right? Like, he believed in all of this, and he also seemed really, really smart as well. Like, he knew what he was talking about. And I just feel like it really depends on who you get, you know, to play opposite of Rick Grimes or Andrew Lincoln, right? Like, you can get a really incredible actor to be in a role like that. And again, it's a 6-episode series with Rick, you know, set in this place or whatever. And that's the premise. And it's like this horror story that happens. I think that could be so epic. And honestly, I think a lot of fans would really love that. So I think that's where they likely should go next in all of this, to be honest, is something like that. And I think that's what Andrew Lincoln wants to do, to be honest. Like, judging based off of his response from a couple of months ago, that's the type of story he wants to tell next, is something like that. And I think doing something like that is way more important to do first before you reunite Rick and Daryl. I think reuniting Rick and Daryl would be really cool, but you do want to have, I think, more of an established story, because again, like, if you reunite Rick and Daryl, it's going to be such a big story again. You know, it's not going to be the whole simplistic survival horror that Andrew Lincoln's talking about. So that's why I feel like, you know, just based off of the fact that Daryl Dixon's going to be lasting a couple of more years, and you know, it just makes sense that before that happens, maybe do a series like this, right? Like, to me, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. I'll leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Where do you want Rick's story to go next? Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.